session. And now you should see a little icon showing that I am currently recording the session. So there's a little red button on the top and it says recording. So we are recording this session. Okay. Thank you for joining us during this COVID consultation, which is, we're doing our best. We having sessions with council on a weekly basis since the pandemic started. So we're getting used to those tools. So hopefully we'll be able to make sure that we're able to transmit all the information you need to make a clear decision. The idea here tonight is that at the end of the meeting, we should be able to make a decision on which two of the proposition that are currently, that the architect is currently working on, the majority would favor. So the participants that we have, and I'm just going to share my screen to let you know what the idea of the meeting tonight should be. So as far as the déroulement de la rencontre, what we have is about 5 minutes. We took more than that just to do a little introduction speak. The explication du déroulement, how it's going to work. We have tested the icons to make sure that people are able to answer. We will then, I will introduce Maggie Apollon, who is the architect working on the project. Philippe Barcelot is an engineer. He's working for a company that actually is in the process of designing the parking lot. And Vincent Carrier is the city engineer responsible for the project. We will then have about a 50-minute time presentation, 20 minutes from Maggie Apollon on the building. We will have a 20-minute discussion from Philippe about the civil engineering, parking lot, etc. Vincent will come back. He will wrap it up and talk about drainage and finance. Then I will be making the first poll on what site, based on that information, would you choose. We will move forward with a 60-minute period question. At the end of that, I'll run another poll, and there will be a closing note from Mr. Doherty as pro-mayor. The time, I'm saying we aim for 9:30 to finish the meeting, depending on how fast or how slow people talk. It might vary, but at 9:30, I'll make a reminder to everybody that it's 9:30 and it was our goal. So let me introduce you the people who will talk tonight. So I am just going to go back to my screen, stop sharing. Okay. So Maggie Apollon is the architect who was chosen to, who was selected to design the project. Her firm got the contract by an open, a public tender. So she was selected by a committee. She specialized in daycare designs, and she's going to talk about her company and what she has accomplished later on. Mr. Philippe Barcelot is an engineer. He will also talk about himself when it's time for him to talk. He was chosen upon prices that were submitted to the engineer department for the design of the parking lot of different options. He will be presenting tonight one of the two options that he has worked on, but if ever at the end of this meeting it's the other option that's chosen, it's included in his contract that he would work on the second option as well. And then we have Vincent Carrier, city engineer, who is responsible for the project for the town. So I will then let Maggie Apollon start the presentation, and I'll leave the floor for that period. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur Bouchard. Alors, je vais vous faire ma présentation en français parce que je suis beaucoup plus à l'aise à m'exprimer en français. Par contre, c'est certain que je pourrai prendre toutes les questions en anglais et vous répondre dans le meilleur de mes capacités. Alors, le CPE de Whiteside-Taylor. Premièrement, pour vous présenter un peu ma firme, je peux vous dire que j'ai une firme d'architecture qui se spécialise dans les conceptions et aménagements de garderies depuis plus de 26 ans. Et ça, c'est devenu vraiment une spécialité. Et on le fait parce que le règlement d'architecture du ministère de la Famille est très exigeant. Et pour pouvoir réussir à faire des aménagements ludiques, intéressants, fonctionnels et sécuritaires, il faut être très persévérant et très patient. Et nous, ben, on a cette passion-là. Je me suis aussi entourée d'une équipe de professionnels en génie pour réaliser le projet qui sont eux aussi habitués de faire des garderies et des centres de la petite enfance, mais également qui sont très soucieux du respect de l'environnement. Et puis, finalement, ce qui est très important pour nous, c'est que pour l'élaboration du projet que je vais vous présenter, on a fait plusieurs rencontres avec les membres du CPE afin de nous assurer de bien comprendre leurs besoins, de bien comprendre leur philosophie et leur façon de préparer, d'offrir leur pédagogie. Et donc, tous les aménagements ont été approuvés par le CPE. Alors, ma présentation, qui a commencé avec la présentation de ma firme, va se poursuivre avec la présentation du site. Je vais aborder l'architecture du bâtiment, bien sûr, et les alternatives de développement durable qu'on a présentées au conseil. Je vais vous parler aussi des mesures architecturales de sécurité sanitaire. Alors, on s'est rapidement adapté à la COVID en proposant des solutions qui peuvent améliorer la sécurité de la santé publique à l'intérieur du CPE. Et finalement, je vais donc vous présenter les deux options d'implantation que moi, j'ai nommées implantation avec débarcadère et implantation sans débarcadère. Alors, votre site. Premièrement, vous avez choisi un site exceptionnel. Il est vraiment, il a vraiment de belles caractéristiques. C'est un site qui, avec son caractère déjà institutionnel, je trouve, se prête bien à l'implantation d'une installation supplémentaire pour le centre de la petite enfance. Il offre plusieurs options et c'est pour ça qu'on a la chance de pouvoir vous en présenter deux qui sont quand même assez différentes. C'est un site qui est boisé. Par contre, il est boisé, mais il a plusieurs arbres qui sont malades. Et il a aussi des arbres qui sont un petit peu plus en santé, mais heureusement, la ville de Baie-D'Urfé est dotée d'un règlement qui protège les arbres et qui fait que à chaque arbre de plus de 10 cm de diamètre enlevé, on devra le remplacer afin de permettre une meilleure diversification de la végétation et des arbres. Alors, pour la suite, donc, c'est une vue qui nous présente la vue vers le lac Saint-Louis et l'architecture du bâtiment. Alors, l'architecture du bâtiment, le concept fondamental de l'installation que j'ai conçue pour vous est basé sur un dialogue constant entre l'intérieur et l'extérieur. Et ça provient de la pédagogie du Whiteside-Taylor. Leur façon d'aborder leur relation avec le développement de l'enfance est beaucoup centrée sur l'échange entre l'extérieur et l'intérieur. Alors, c'est un bâtiment d'un seul étage avec un toit en pente qui a 21 pieds, qui est largement fenestré, qui a des fenêtres qui peuvent aussi s'ouvrir, qui offre des revêtements en bois qui s'intègrent à l'environnement. Donc, l'idée, c'est de ne pas défaire ce qu'il y a, mais plutôt le mettre en valeur. c'est aussi un bâtiment qui, si on regarde l'aménagement intérieur, c'est un bâtiment qui se déploie en offrant une cour intérieure. Alors, si je prends mon petit outil pour pouvoir diriger la conversation, vous voyez ici que on rentre, l'entrée principale se trouve ici. Et dès qu'on entre à l'intérieur du CPE, on a bien sûr un bureau qui permet de bien surveiller les entrées et les sorties au CPE. Et c'est ici qu'on a proposé d'installer un lavabo à hauteur adulte qui permet de lavage des mains de façon systématique à chaque fois qu'on entre dans le CPE et qu'on en sort. Alors, sinon, on a une cuisine qui est le cœur central du CPE avec un comptoir ouvert pour permettre une bonne communication entre la cuisinière et les parents et les enfants quotidiennement. Alors, dans l'aile qui se trouve à notre gauche, on a les plus petits avec les poupons qui ont leur petite cuisinette, qui ont leur salle de sommeil respective et qui ont aussi un accès directement à l'extérieur. Donc, ils ont un espace de jeu qui leur est destiné et qui leur permet d'y accéder directement de l'intérieur de la pouponnière. Les autres enfants dans les aires de jeu 1 et 2 sont des enfants qui ont 1, 2, 3, pardon, qui ont entre 18 mois et 3 ans. Ce sont des espaces qui sont vraiment adaptés à leurs besoins. Ils ont des lavabos à leur hauteur à l'intérieur des pièces. Ils ont des tables allongées. Chaque salle est munie ou a accès à une salle de toilette. Et ils ont un accès à l'extérieur lorsque c'est possible. Ça, c'était vraiment une demande très importante de la part du CPE. Puis, je suis contente d'avoir réussi à pouvoir leur offrir ça. Ensuite, au centre, on a les groupes qui, eux, travaillent en groupe double, sont un petit peu plus grands. Alors, ils ont des portes qui communiquent entre les deux locaux, les deux aires de jeu, qui font qu'à certains moments de la journée, ce sont des grands groupes. Et à certains autres moments, ils peuvent avoir plus d'intimité et les portes se referment. Eux aussi ont accès à la cour extérieure. Et dans l'aile droite, là, ce sont les grands. Les grands, eux, ils sont carrément dans des grands espaces, des salles doubles, avec quand même tous les équipements nécessaires à leur développement. Ils ont accès à leur salle de toilette, ils ont accès à leur lavabo et à leur matelas. Il y a une pièce qui est vraiment destinée uniquement à la désinfection et à la buanderie. Et finalement, la salle multi, qui est vraiment ma pièce préférée. C'est une salle qui est vitrée sur 3 façades, donc qui offre des vues, bon, dépendamment du choix d'implantation que vous allez faire aujourd'hui, les vues sont différentes, mais qui offre une relation avec l'extérieur sur 3 murs. Avec ici une salle de toilette qui est directement accessible de l'extérieur. Donc, quand les enfants jouent à l'extérieur et qu'ils ont besoin d'aller à la salle de toilette, ils peuvent le faire sans avoir à entrer à l'intérieur de l'installation. Alors, comme je vous l'ai mentionné, on a travaillé très fort ce plan avec le CPE pour nous assurer que tout était en fonction de leurs besoins. On a quand même rationalisé parce que, bon, la superficie finale du bâtiment est de 7500 pieds carrés, ce qui est un tout petit peu plus élevé que la moyenne, mais très comparable à l'installation du TLE, du petit TLE. C'est un bâtiment aussi qui a des caractéristiques intéressantes en termes de développement durable. En fait, le principe qu'on a adopté pour toute la conception du bâtiment, c'est de travailler avec les 5 principes directeurs qui permettent d'avoir un bâtiment d'une qualité de développement durable. Donc, les 5 principes, c'est vraiment bien isoler le bâtiment, être étanche aux fuites d'air, minimiser des ponts thermiques, utiliser des fenêtres performantes, récupérer et ventiler adéquatement et maximiser l'emploi du bois. Alors, c'est vraiment, toutes ces mesures-là ont été adoptées. Le bois est utilisé non seulement comme revêtement extérieur, mais aussi pour le mobilier intégré. L'échangeur d'air haute performance avec récupération de 70% de la chaleur et le système qui va être installé. Les fenêtres extérieures sont hybrides, bois, aluminium et ont un grand rendement éco-énergétique. On prend des fenêtres de très, très bonne qualité parce qu'on a beaucoup de fenêtres. Et finalement, on a un système de chauffage à l'eau, en fait au glucose, qui est un plancher radiant. Donc, un chauffage vraiment optimal, confortable pour les enfants qui sont souvent au plancher et qui a une bonne aussi performance énergétique. Alors, les mesures de sécurité sanitaire, on a les lavabos, le lavabo à l'entrée principale qui est hauteur adulte, mais l'enfant va pouvoir l'utiliser systématiquement en arrivant à la garderie. Dans tous les locaux, il y a toujours des lavabos à la hauteur des enfants et à la hauteur des adultes. Et on va essayer d'installer des robinets thermostatiques pour diminuer les risques de contamination par contact. Alors, je suis maintenant en train d'aborder avec vous les deux options d'implantation, avec débarcadère et sans débarcadère. Alors, si on regarde la première option, avec débarcadère, on voit que le CPE, avec sa forme, est orienté, la façade est orientée vers le lac Saint-Louis, vers le chemin Lakeshore. C'est une implantation qui exige d'avoir une nouvelle entrée charretière et qui permet de agrandir le stationnement, mais seulement de façon limitée. Alors, l'ajout du débarcadère, c'est clair que c'est un avantage parce qu'il réduit le nombre de cases de stationnement exigées. C'est reconnu que le débarcadère permet aux gens d'être là moins longtemps en arrivant au CPE et en quittant le CPE. Donc, le nombre de places de stationnement est moins important et moins exigeant. Il y a aussi la notion de sécurité qui, pour moi, est la plus importante. Alors, avec le débarcadère, les voitures, lorsque les parents déposent les enfants, les voitures sont toujours adossées à un trottoir. Donc, le parent peut vraiment ouvrir la porte du côté du trottoir pour que les enfants n'aient jamais à traverser aucune allée véhiculaire. Ils sont tout le temps sur le trottoir, que ce soit le matin en arrivant ou le soir en quittant. On a aussi, bon, bien sûr, une entrée additionnelle sur Lakeshore. Le fait d'avoir une entrée additionnelle sur Lakeshore, je pense que ça va réduire la congestion. Plutôt que d'être en file d'attente pour sortir d'un seul stationnement, bien, il y a comme deux files d'attente distincts. L'espace de jeu extérieur n'est pas visible de la rue, ce qui fait qu'il n'y a pas de clôtures qui sont apparentes. On sait que les clôtures, c'est peut-être moins intéressant à voir quand on n'est pas dans la cour. Clôtures, cabanons ne sont pas visibles de la rue. On a aussi, le bâtiment est plus éloigné de Lakeshore en ayant ce type d'implantation-là, parce que je peux pousser davantage le bâtiment vers le côté résidentiel plutôt que vers le côté public. Et il y a aussi un trait intéressant, c'est que la vue vers le lac pour cette implantation est mieux préservée pour les résidents qui sont ici, parce que le bâtiment se trouve plus au nord. Maintenant, bon, c'est sûr qu'il y a des désavantages. Si je regarde les désavantages de cette option, c'est qu'il y a un plus grand nombre d'arbres à enlever, parce que ce qu'on voit en gris ici, c'est le boisé. C'est une zone qui a été identifiée avec des arbres malades, mais pas autant que le boisé qui se trouve complètement en avant. Un autre désavantage, c'est que l'espace de jeu extérieur donne sur la cour des résidents. On a quand même gardé une zone tampon de 24, un petit peu moins que 24 pieds, disons peut-être 18 pieds entre la clôture et la limite de propriété des voisins. Et le stationnement doit être agrandi, même s'il ne doit pas être beaucoup agrandi, il doit être quand même agrandi. Et lorsqu'on est sur Lakeshore, c'est sûr qu'on voit un petit peu plus le stationnement. Alors, quand on arrive par la nouvelle entrée charretière, c'est ce qu'on verrait. Donc là, on voit que vraiment le trottoir borde le bâtiment au complet. Donc, les enfants peuvent marcher de façon beaucoup plus sécuritaire pour entrer et sortir dans le CPE. Alors que dans la deuxième option, qui est sans débarcadère, il faut donc ajouter plus de cases de stationnement. Je commence encore avec les avantages. Les avantages, c'est que comme le bâtiment est implanté à cet endroit, il y a moins d'arbres à enlever. Puis en plus, c'est surtout les arbres qui sont malades. Alors, c'est nettement un avantage. L'espace de jeu extérieur, il donne sur le parc. Donc, si on se place du point de vue de l'enfant et des aires de jeu du CPE, bien, la vue sur le parc est beaucoup plus... la perspective est plus intéressante que d'avoir une perspective sur les lots résidentiels. Ce qui est aussi intéressant dans cette option, c'est que lorsqu'on se promène sur Lakeshore, il y a toute une portion du stationnement qui est moins visible parce qu'elle est cachée par le bâtiment. Et le dernier avantage intéressant, c'est que la zone résidentielle, elle est isolée. Elle se trouve mieux isolée parce qu'elle donne sur un stationnement, donc elle est moins... le bâtiment est moins rapproché de la limite de propriété de la zone résidentielle. Maintenant, il y a quand même des désavantages à cette option. Et bon, le premier, c'est mon avis, mais vous pouvez en juger par vous-même, mais le bâtiment est plus rapproché de Lakeshore. C'est sûr que la façade donne sur la bibliothèque, elle ne donne pas sur la rue. Il y a plus de cases de stationnement vu qu'on n'a plus de débarcadère. Le stationnement est moins sécuritaire parce que même les cases qui sont ici, elles sont toujours perpendiculaires au trottoir. Donc, même quand les parents stationnent près du trottoir, les portes s'ouvrent sur les cases latérales. Donc, il y a toujours un risque qu'une voiture rentre ou sorte sans qu'on l'ait vue ou qu'un enfant parte à courir dans une direction par rapport à un débarquement sur le trottoir avec un débarcadère. On a aussi le fait qu'il n'y ait pas de nouvelle entrée charretière, ça fait qu'il y a un risque de congestion plus grand lorsqu'on doit quitter ou entrer sur le site parce qu'il y a une seule entrée pour entrer sur le stationnement. On a un espace de jeu extérieur. L'espace de jeu extérieur du CPE est visible de la rue. Alors, ça fait qu'on doit... il y a des clôtures, c'est peut-être moins intéressant visuellement. Par contre, on peut aussi ajouter des éléments comme des graminées ou des aménagements qui diminuent l'impact négatif d'avoir la vue sur les clôtures. Et puis, la vue sur le lac est moins préservée pour le secteur résidentiel parce que dans cet aménagement, le bâtiment se trouve un petit peu plus au sud, donc il bloque un petit peu plus la vue de ce côté-là. Alors, ça va me faire réellement plaisir de pouvoir répondre à vos questions. Ça, c'est la vue qu'on voit lorsque le bâtiment est placé face au stationnement. Donc, effectivement, les enfants ont une belle vue sur le lac, mais le stationnement est un peu moins sécuritaire. Et ça complète ma présentation.
Alors, merci, Maggie Apollon. For those who might have questions in English when time comes, feel free to ask those questions in English. If you missed something of the presentation of Madame Apollon, just ask your question in English, and she's going to be able to answer your questions without any problems. So then I'll turn the mic to Philippe Barcelot, who's going to talk a little bit about himself and the parking lot for the daycare.
So good evening, everybody. So as Nicolas said in the introduction, I'm a civil engineer from Polytechnic. I'm specialized in rainwater drainage, sewers, and parking lot infrastructure. And I've been working in engineering for 14 years and 10 years as project manager. So tonight I'll be talking about the reconstruction of the parking lot and the sewer, rainwater sewer that's going to be constructed under this parking lot for stormwater management. I work for IGF Axiom. We're specialized in safety and security on construction site and civil engineering. So I'm the director of the design department in municipal infrastructure. CAP is a landscape architect firm. They work with me on this project. They're the one who did actually this presentation, except the first slide. They are going to work on the presentation of the parking lot, plantations, and the general look of the parking. So here's a quick presentation of both our firm, basically what I just said. I will now skip to the sewer construction and the parking lot. This is what we want to do with this project, is cut this sewer line here, and all the rainwater coming from Dowker Street will go through the parking lot in a sewer that's going to be connected to the one going to the water here. Actually, we're going to rebuild this one too. It's part 2 of our project. Here, it's not shown on this picture yet. It's going to be part of the further design. We're going to have a catch basin in the parking lot and some, catch basin to catch the rainwater. The leveling of the parking lot will be adapted to these catch basins. Here, what I'm showing with this slide is the work that we're going to do on the last part of the sewer here that's going in the St. Lawrence River. As you can see on the picture shown here, the actual problem is that the last piece of the sewer, and maybe the one before that, although it seems to not be that much of a problem on site, is slowly carried away. I suspect it's because of the ice in the winter. And we're going to rebuild all this to avoid this low point in the sewer to make sure the water can flow properly. And we're going to try also to avoid that the sewer being carried away by the ice to be a problem in the future. So this is a plan view of what we're going to do. The landscape architect is going to help us on this. There's going to be plantation on the side of the St. Lawrence River. And all this, the red part that you see next to the blue line here is going to be replaced with a new one. Now, this is a quick view of the new parking lot that we're suggesting here. We're going to show in presentation I'm going to show you a plan view of the proposed parking lot and some views that you can see here. This is the existing view. We're going to show you also the proposed view for this parking lot. So I'll present the plan view right after that. This is the image of what the parking lot is going to look like after construction. The green line that you can see here is the bike path. So here's the view of the new CPE here. I just want to mention, oops, here, this is the first view that we saw from the Lakeshore Street. The second view will be from inside the parking lot, and the third view will be from the air, as you can see here. So this view presents also the passage that we want to do to increase the safety of pedestrian between the two CPE, the one that's here and the other one, the Whiteside Taylor, that's behind us here. So this here is an overview of the existing parking lot. And here we try to do as clear as possible a view of what the new parking lot is going to look like from the air. So with this slide, I can present you more accurately what the parking lot is going to look like. So the first problem we try to solve with the new design is to have the entrance here reduced, because it is a safety issue now to have that large of an entry. First of all, the vehicle tend to go faster in entrance that's larger. Second of all, for the pedestrian and cyclist walking by, it's a lot of crossing without a safety zone, which we created here in the middle. Secondly, we try to increase the safety of the pedestrian in the parking lot, which we did with the concrete prefab blocks here, passage that you can see here, from the people coming from Docker, for the people coming from Docker and going in the park that's on the other side of Lakeshore, and the passage here that we saw on the picture previously, going from one CPE to the new CPE to the Whiteside Taylor. That's here. So it's going to avoid having people walking a bit anywhere in the parking lot and creating a distraction for the driver, and also, well, basically being more at risk of a collision. This parking lot also includes, which wasn't the case previously, 2 spots for the electric cars. One spot here is planned for the CPE bus, well, the CPE bus, yeah. And we have 3 handicap parking spot, for 2 for the Whiteside Taylor CPA and 1 for the new CPA. Here again, to increase to improve the use of the dropout zone here is a passage for pedestrian, or a sidewalk for pedestrian here and on the other side here. The new parking lot, the existing parking lot, had also some issues with the size of the parking spots that were a bit too small, and also the alley that were too narrow. So the new parking lot design is going to correct that flaw by adding alley of 7 meters for for vehicles to drive in, and the size of the parking spots will be increased to 6 meters long to 2.5 meters large. We also have a zone of I don't know what's the expression in English, with the concrete with holes in it, that will allow us to have an area that's not as impervious to water than concrete. So it's for the environment, it's a bit better and reduces the volume of rainwater that's carried in the sewer. And it also allows for more than only the use of parking. It could be used also for a picnic table or other furniture that the CPE might want to use in that spot. Also another issue that was reported in our discussion is the tree that would be planted over here with that design. Now they're shown as big trees, but it is possible to have smaller trees here to not completely block the view of from the Docker Street. As for the exit of the Fritz Center, we avoided them going in front of the new CPE by creating the second entrance here which Maggie showed before. Now the vehicle, instead of driving in front of the dropout zone of the new CPE, will directly exit here. And this will decrease the risk of having traffic conflict here. So we think this design is going to be more efficient for traffic circulation. This parking lot design will also, the aim of our mandate is also to solve the lighting problem in the existing parking lot, which is insufficient. It's a bit too low for the use of a parking lot. So we added more lighting lampposts over the parking lot. We did some tests before presenting this design, and it is much more uniform and brighter for the people using the parking lot at night. I'm thinking mainly in the winter when it's getting darker earlier. There's also some spots for the bicycle stand, which are here for the Whiteside Taylor CPA and the new CPA that's here. So here is a table of presenting the parking spots of the existing, comparing the parking spot of the existing the existing parking lot, yeah, and the proposed one. As you can see, there is less regular parking spot, but we're gaining on the handicap parking spot, electric vehicle, and also we have this option here in the area with the concrete with holes that allows us to park some cars in case we need it. So there's a difference of 61 parking spots compared to 51 only for the new one, but this could be compensated by the area that we get the option. Another comparison that we were asked to make was the comparison of impervious surface compared to pervious one, which is grass, gravel. So as you can see, there is less in the proposed parking lot than the existing one that's here. The reason for that being that the parking lot is extended, let's say starting from the limit of Balker Street here to the new CPA, there's a bit of an addition of pavement. And more or less reduction elsewhere. So that's the reason why we're increasing the level of asphalt. But we also had discussion to reduce the parking. It is a possibility to reduce parking spot and make it greener. That's going to be something that's going to be evaluated well tonight and later in the design phase. So here is two slides presenting the kind of trees that the landscape architect proposed. It's a preliminary suggestion. It is up for discussion, but she just wanted to add that to the presentation of tonight. So here's this picture and this series of pictures. And this completes my presentation of the proposed parking lot. I'll leave it to Vincent to conclude that part.
Merci, M. Barcelot. Maintenant, on va céder la parole à Vincent Carrier. Vincent, si tu as besoin que je monte des diapos, tu me le dis et je vais les mettre à l'écran quand tu veux.
Parfait. Alors, bonsoir tout le monde. Mon nom, c'est Vincent Carrier. So, I will express myself in French, but if you have any question in English, we can be able to respond it. So, je suis ingénieur civil de formation. Je suis dans le domaine municipal depuis 8 ans. Au préalable à ça, j'ai fait du privé pendant une dizaine d'années, 10-12 années, autant pour les entrepreneurs ou firmes consultants. Donc, ça fait plaisir ici de vous présenter le projet du CPE. J'ai été coordonnateur avec M. Barcelot et l'architecte Maggie Apollon dans le cadre de ce projet-là. Alors, ce soir, une décision qui doit être prise par rapport au choix d'implantation. Donc, on a deux options qui sont intéressantes. Il y a des bons côtés dans une et l'autre aussi, des bons et des mauvais côtés. Par contre, les deux sont intéressantes comme options. Nous, avec le stationnement, on a demandé à la firme IGF Axiom d'élaborer le concept avec débarcadère. Puis, on aurait pu choisir l'autre aussi, c'est juste qu'on ne connaît pas à l'heure actuelle le choix d'implantation. Mais on a fait ce choix-là parce qu'à la base, le concept avec débarcadère avait moins de cases de stationnement. Donc, on réduisait à la base la superficie d'asphalte. Donc, on a élaboré ce concept-là, mais tout ce qui a été présenté en plan d'aménagement peut très bien se faire avec l'autre concept également. Donc, Nicolas, si tu veux mettre l'image 2, le plan du stationnement.
Oui, j'arrive dans 2 petites secondes, Vincent. Alors... C'est à toi.
Merci. Donc, le plan qui est proposé, bon, comme le disait Philippe, il y a plusieurs éléments, disons, éco-responsables qu'on a intégrés au plan d'aménagement du stationnement. Puis, je dirais que c'est un ordre raisonnable, à modéré raisonnable. On n'est pas allé à l'extrême, on n'est pas allé au minimum, on a intégré quand même plusieurs éléments. Philippe l'a quand même bien expliqué. Il y a peut-être certaines choses qu'il faut comprendre, c'est qu'on est encore à l'étape conceptuelle. La piste cyclable en façade, bon, c'est encore à discuter. Philippe n'a peut-être pas mentionné aussi les conteneurs à déchets, que la dernière réunion, on a discuté de savoir, par exemple, est-ce qu'on enlève ceux existants puis on relocalise les autres avec des conteneurs plus grands qui pourraient être partagés entre les deux CPE. Donc, il y a des petits fins détails qui doivent être encore, disons, élaborés à ce niveau-là. Qu'est-ce qui est intéressant là-dedans dans le stationnement proposé, disons, avec débarcadère, c'est que au final, on arrive sensiblement avec le même nombre de cases de stationnement disponibles. Puis la raison est que actuellement, le stationnement du Whiteside-Taylor, c'est un stationnement avec des allées véhiculaires qui ne sont pas conformes à la réglementation actuelle. Donc, en faisant fi du CPE, si on devait reconstruire le stationnement en gardant les mêmes ratios d'espace disponibles, on serait amené à agrandir de toute façon le stationnement. Ou peut-être à le réduire si on reconstruit le débarcadère du CPE existant, c'est-à-dire que c'est un débarcadère qui n'est pas fonctionnel actuellement. Puis un débarcadère permet justement de réduire le nombre de cases de stationnement. Donc, avec cette option-là, et même si au final, on voit qu'une réduction de cases de stationnement par rapport à l'existant, on est à l'aise, dans le fond, d'y aller on serait à l'aise d'aller de l'avant dans une réduction de cases, étant donné qu'on aurait 2 débarcadères fonctionnels dans les 2 CPE. Juste un instant. Donc, si tu veux passer à l'image 3, Nicolas, s'il vous plaît. Donc, ça, c'est l'option que un choix d'implantation qui n'a pas été élaboré au point de vue aménagement du stationnement. C'est une option intéressante aussi qui a ses avantages et inconvénients. C'est sûr que, étant donné, comme Mme Apollon l'a dit, on n'a pas de débarcadère au niveau CPE, donc ça nécessite plus de cases. Par contre, toujours moyen, si c'est le choix, c'est une décision qui peut être faite aussi autant à la ville et avec consultation avec nos conseillers, on pourrait à la limite décider de réduire le nombre de cases de stationnement avec la portion qui est située au nord. En tout cas, je ne sais pas si c'est le nord, là, cette portion-là ici. Ça représente 18 cases de stationnement, puis une superficie à peu près de 400-450 mètres carrés. Donc, qu'est-ce qui pourrait être fait à la limite? C'est de dire, bon, temporairement, on l'enlève, on met du gazon ou on met un aménagement quelconque, on regarde comment que ça bouge autour de ça. Puis, on aurait une zone, si on veut, si vraiment il y a le besoin d'aménager le stationnement plus grand. Mais c'est sûr que au final, on aurait moins d'espace de stationnement qu'actuellement. Donc là, c'est sûr que la décision est un petit peu plus délicate à prendre par rapport à ça. On veut quand même que les deux installations soient fonctionnelles pour les parents, les employés aussi des deux CPE. Si tu veux passer à l'image, je vais vous parler un peu du drainage du secteur.
Ça, c'était la photo, hein?
Ouais, la photo 4.
La voilà. Est-ce que tu la vois, Vincent?
Non, je ne la vois pas.
Hop, c'est à mon écran. Un petit peu. Ce sera pas long, ce sera pas long. Je vais faire stop share. Je vous reviens. La voilà.
Super, merci. Donc, ça, c'est une image du drainage actuel tirée du fameux plan directeur de drainage qui montre c'est quoi l'état actuel, disons, du réseau de drainage. Ça ne montre pas la zone, disons, le côté qui montre la déficience du drainage, par contre, puis c'est ce que je vais vous expliquer actuellement. C'est que, comme Philippe l'a mentionné, bon, la partie de l'émissaire ici, où c'était écrit 0302, la sortie pluviale est en pente inverse. Il ne faut pas nécessairement se fier au morceau de tuyau qui était montré sur la photo, mais en profondeur avec des relevés lidar qui appellent la portion sur 45 ou 50 mètres du Lake Shore jusqu'à la sortie au lac Saint-Louis. La conduite est en pente inverse. Donc, c'est sûr que c'est un problème important à considérer parce que le drainage, bon, c'est important à la base pour deux choses. Un, c'est sûr, la captation des eaux pluviales, des eaux de surface pour le drainage en général, ça, c'est une chose. Mais l'autre chose aussi, c'est important parce que dans le cas d'un nouveau CPE, il va y avoir une installation septique qui doit être mise en place. On ne connaît pas encore le type d'installation septique, mais on sait qu'un système tertiaire, par exemple, ça prend moins de place qu'un champ d'épuration standard, mais ça rejette beaucoup d'eau aussi dans le réseau de la ville. Mais ça, la décision de l'installation septique, ça relève du ministère de l'Environnement. Okay? Donc, une firme mandatée par l'architecte, qui est un représentant désigné par la ville, qui s'occupe de faire les correspondances avec le ministère de l'Environnement pour justement déterminer c'est quoi les recommandations, qu'est-ce qu'on devrait utiliser comme système septique. Puis, le ministère, eux, émettent des commentaires, des recommandations, mais ils veulent avoir des réponses aux questions. Puis, ça peut être autant, c'est quoi l'état des conduites? Est-ce que l'écoulement se fait adéquatement? Est-ce qu'on est dans quelle zone de récurrence constitue autant les fossés ou les conduites fermées? Bref, c'est des questions qu'on doit répondre. Puis, forcément, à la base, c'est sûr que l'émissaire, présentement, ne serait pas conforme aux exigences du ministère de l'Environnement. OK? Donc, ça, c'est une chose. L'autre chose qu'on a remarqué, c'est qu'on a fait, toujours dans le plan directeur de drainage, on a tenté de faire des inspections télévisées dans le secteur qui est montré ici. Tu sais, surtout le secteur à partir de Docker vers le sud et après ça vers le Lakeshore. Bref, le secteur du 690 de la rue Docker. Qu'est-ce qu'on a remarqué? C'est que de la rue Docker vers, disons, la limite de cette résidence-là, la limite de la cour arrière, la conduite est complètement submergée d'eau. OK? Puis ça, on a eu les résultats récemment, en janvier à peu près. C'est là qu'il s'est amené le questionnement. Tu sais, pourquoi qu'aujourd'hui, on proposerait un drainage pour dévier justement le bassin versant qui arrive vers Darker? Pourquoi qu'on ne le dévierait pas par le stationnement qui serait construit? En partie, c'est à cause des résultats d'inspection télévisée qu'on a fait à ce niveau-là. Parce que, bon, la conduite passe d'une part chez un terrain privé. Je ne crois pas qu'on ait une servitude, mais qu'on ait une servitude ou pas de servitude, on ne peut pas penser d'aller faire une réfection localement à cet endroit-là. Ça causerait des impacts trop majeurs, si on veut, à la personne qui habite au 690 Darker. Puis, c'est une conduite quand même importante. C'est une conduite de 600 mm de diamètre, puis qui amène tout le bassin versant, disons, au nord de Churchill. Churchill, dans ce coin-là? En tout cas, la partie Darker vers le haut, si on veut. C'est quand même une superficie de bassin versant importante. Donc, en proposant la réfection du stationnement, ça devient inévitable de proposer de dévier, si on veut, la collecte des eaux pluviales par une nouvelle conduite, puis en même temps faire la réfection au niveau de l'émissaire. Donc, on ne propose pas nécessairement parce que la conduite passe nécessairement sur un terrain privé, c'est juste qu'en plus de ça, elle n'est pas dans un état optimal présentement. Donc, pour moi, ça complète un peu le tour.
Merci, Vincent. Je vais juste toucher rapidement le volet budgétaire. So I'll touch base a little shortly on the monetary aspect of the project. I'll share my screen to show that. Just give me a second. Okay, here we go. So this is to show the cost that we are actually foreseeing for the whole project. They're separated in two. You've got the CPE and you've got the parking lot. This one is with the drop-off area. The price for the other one would be different, but we went with that scenario as far as to present the maximum possible cost we could see or we could estimate. So the project of the CPE was originally estimated as far as a cost for a city at $1.75 million. It comes in here at 2.6 million, but that's not taking into account the subsidy that we have already foreseen coming. So the end result as a net is $2 million. So there's a slight difference of $285,000 short between the estimate and what we are actually on or expected to come in. We don't know what the prices when we will go to tender will be. As a information about recent bids that we went for, we did go for the repaving of 5 streets for the city about a month ago, and the price came in $100,000 less than the estimate. So really, for now, they're working with high prices. Doesn't mean that it's not going to come less than that. Could come higher, but normally the estimates tends to be on the high hand of the numbers. Now for the parking lot, obviously this situation is not unexpected, but I'll run through the numbers to make sure that everybody understands. The estimate for the parking lot originally we had in the capital expenditure plan $500,000 to redo the parking lot, which was the existing parking lot. It was not taking into account any new CPE or sewage when that number was put in. Now, looking at the situation we're having, we found out that if we're to redo the existing parking and making it up to code or up to norms, it will be bigger than what is the actual parking lot. So obviously the space is bigger, the cost will come in higher, and we have a significant cost here on the égouts pluviaux, which is the Docker, sewer, and outlet to the lake replacement. That is something that was not foreseen before. It was during the tests that we have done to measure the water level and stuff like that, that we found out that the exit of Docker was causing problems and that we needed to do something about it. So here you have the complete work for that. Regardless of the daycare or not, this is something that will need to be done. So it's a cost that we did not foresee, but will have to be done in the near future because it's flooding the area, and we need to make sure that we're draining that water properly. Now, the other costs that are raising the level of the price of the parking lot, obviously here, if you are redoing a parking lot and you want to put some upscale lift to it, which is put some unistone, put some aménagement paysager, trees and all, the lightning, l'éclairage, those are costs that we could always look at to try to reduce, but the plans that you were shown includes all those aménagements. So right now, that's the cost, that's the reality of the cost. Higher than anticipated for the parking section part, drainage, and like I mentioned, all this enhancement of the parking because we're on Lakeshore that was put in by the architect and that we're presenting to you tonight. So this is actually where we stand. Remember that tonight the situation about the price could be brought as a question because counselors are always, like I mentioned, listening to the meeting tonight. And I'm sure they're going to take good notes of any comments that are made, but we try to focus ourselves on the location of the daycare. That's the objective we have tonight. So right now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And what I'm going to do is ask for you guys. I've got some people trying to talk to me. Okay, I've got questions from Mr. Alain. So I could talk when we'll get to the question period. I'll touch with Mr. Alain. Please try not to start group chats because I'm not going to be able to follow up on emails that are going to start to pop up. If I want to be able to answer, I just want to let you know that it's going to be hard for me if every conversation starts to be on the Zoom group chat. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out a first poll about the two options that we have before we go and move on to the question period. So on your screen, you will be seeing a poll, and then results are completely personal. We will not see who answers what, so feel free to answer. The more you are, the better the results will be. So here it is. I'm launching it right now. So we have 48 people who are able to answer that poll. So you've got the first, which is the preferred configuration. You've got with drop-off or without drop-off. So just to let you know, we're moving 10% out of 48. I'll leave it a bit to let you answer, and then I'll be able to share the results. So don't worry, you will see exactly what people have answered. So far, 21 out of 48, 25. I guess the member of council are counted in that number, so might not want to wait for all results to come in. Okay, I'll share the result with you. I'll end this poll, share the results, and we'll come back at the end of the meeting with another polling. So for now, what 22 have chosen, 73% of the pollers is with the drop-off option. So not saying that the decision has been made based on that. It's to give council again an impression of what people that participate are feeling. So I will stop this, and I believe that after my first poll, we are now moving for the question period. We're 10 minutes late, so it's fine. What I would like to do is for those who have seen the yes, no icon, if you want to ask a question, please do press yes. So I'll jump to the ones who have questions, and I'll do it in alphabetic order, which is what I have on my screen. Mr. Lilly, I figured that you will probably ask a question. It's your hands raised. C'est parfait. If you want to have your hand up, it works for me. So for now, remember, in order to ask a question, click on your participant icon at the bottom of your screen. You will have then on your right-hand side the yes, no. If you want to ask a question, just say you want, and I'll go and ask you guys. So let me start with, okay. I'll start with Mr. Heidi Egved. I'll wait for you. I'll start with citizens first. So Guido Socher would be the first one. I will unmute you, and you will be able to ask your question. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so thank you very much for this presentation. So one concern that I have is I mean, we've been very well explained, you know, how it works internally in the CPE, but this is our, I would say, most beautiful park. So I think we should also make an effort to integrate this into the park. To me, we haven't seen many views from the lake, but it doesn't seem right that we put a gray building with a enlarged parking lot in this area. I think we could do much more. I mean, it's a daycare, and I think something more, you know, instead of dark gray, something happy, more open and you know, welcoming would fit much better. And we have options here. We could integrate it a little bit into there's a slight hill. We could integrate it in there. But, you know, it's a park, so we could add more green elements, maybe some green on the roof. So I would like to see some more work done in this direction. Yeah, so I think that's important. It's not only it's important that we design it inside, you know, the inside of the CPE properly, but the outside, given this location, is also very important. And I think there's more work that needs to be done.
Thank you, Mr. Socher. I will try to limit question as one per round. So if you ever have another one, I'll come back to you. So thank you for that, Mr. Socher. I will mute you again and go for the other question. Thank you. The other one is from Margaret Kastner. Again, let me unmute you guys. Go ahead.
Thank you. And also thank you for the presentation. We actually went to take a walk this afternoon to have a look at the place where we could see on the drawings, but we wanted to have visual on it. And we also questioned why it was dark and gray. And the only reason we really came up with was because maybe it would kind of fade into the background of the trees. We were looking at the view as you come along Lakeshore and how the view would be impacted towards the park and Fritz Farm. And looking at the drawing and the presentation, we did opt for the débarcadère, the view with the débarcadère, but we wondered, my husband actually made a little drawing, and I don't know if you can see, but if you were to eliminate the second entrance and have one entrance with two-way traffic, you could keep the débarcadère and you would eliminate what would impact the view towards Fritz Farm and have the possibility of having all the same features, but not that second entrance, which would take up a lot more space and impact the view a whole lot. So it was just a question. We wondered why that hadn't been considered. I guess in the same vein for the traffic, I don't know if there's an option of opening up the traffic to Douker to exit that way. No?
No, it was not part of the equation because we didn't want to create a new way for citizens to come by that street to have access to both CPEs and the library. Currently, there's no traffic there or no traffic issues.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to create one in a very quiet street, I have to say. But so thank you for sharing your sketch. What I would ask you is if you're able to send it by email tomorrow,
yes.
Either to me or to Vincent, we're gonna have a look at it for sure.
It's not a big change on what's there, actually.
Thank you very much. We're moving now with Olivier Colmel.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I must say I'm a little surprised having studied civil engineering and architecture myself. I find this is the classic box that we just sit there and then not work around the actual setting that what we have and the nature that we have. And I'm a little disappointed. There's not much creativity in there. I have a list of questions and suggestions, but I understand we each are going to go with one question at a time. So my first question is for Madame Apollon. I'm curious to know what the material, or I'll speak in French, les matériaux qui sont inclus dans l'architecture en fait, vu que c'est pour les enfants, vu qu'il y a une sensibilité environnementale, c'est quoi le choix d'options que vous avez sélectionné pour les matériaux pour éviter justement que ce soit des COV ou autre chose, en fait, les composés organiques volatiles et autre chose pour leur santé? C'est quoi les critères que vous avez inclus dans votre architecture? Should I repeat this in English for others, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm just asking about the materials that we're using in the architecture, since we're talking about little children and they're very sensitive to the environment, to organic, volatile organic compounds that you find in materials that are off-gassing all the time. So I'm just curious, what are the criteria that we've set in place to ensure that it's a very safe and healthy selection of materials for our children?
Voulez-vous que je réponde tout de suite?
Oui, allez-y,
Oui.
Madame Apollon.
Oui, en fait, ce qu'on a, c'est le revêtement extérieur, le bois, c'est du bois. C'est pas c'est un composé, c'est vraiment du bois, c'est du Blue House. Pardon, c'est un revêtement de cèdre blanc qui est traité pour être sans entretien. En fait, en termes de matériaux, les revêtements intérieurs, surtout le plancher, c'est des matériaux à base de lin, du linoléum. C'est les matériaux qui ont effectivement une faible émission. La plupart des matériaux maintenant utilisés dans la construction sont tous avec un label éco-responsable. Alors, c'est très facile d'utiliser des matériaux, que ce soit pour le revêtement intérieur, le mobilier intérieur, le revêtement de plancher, la peinture, même les tuiles acoustiques, l'isolant aussi, c'est de l'isolant avec des matières à base de j'allais dire de lin, mais c'est pas du lin, mais il y a une gamme vraiment très grande de matériaux qui sont utilisés dans pratiquement tous les CPE aujourd'hui, qui sont vraiment adaptés à l'usage de garderie. Et c'est bien sûr des matériaux comme ça qu'on va utiliser. Mais nous, ce qu'on va ajouter, c'est qu'on va utiliser des fenêtres éco-énergétiques plus performantes. Donc là, on parle d'économie d'énergie. Et puis, le Whiteside a déjà une philosophie de travailler beaucoup avec le bois. Donc, même les tables, les chaises, c'est du bois qu'on utilise. On a beaucoup parlé de tous les détails de finition, les tablettes intérieures. Il y aura beaucoup de boiserie. Donc, c'est ça. Là. Je ne sais pas si je réponds à votre question.
Deux petites secondes, Monsieur Colmel. Allez-y.
Oui, ça répond. Je vais bien sûr en rajouter, mais je vais laisser l'espace aux autres pour poser leurs questions.
Merci, on revient à vous, Monsieur Colmel. On va poursuivre avec Anne Common. Laissez-moi vous unmute and then you'll be able... C'est bon. Go ahead.
Okay. I live right next door to this on Stafford. And I wonder about the snow cleaning. First of all, the present parking lot snow is dumped and the kids have a ball playing on it. And from what I see from this design, there's no place to put the snow. And if there were, the kids could still have a ball playing on it. But the design has no room for snow. So I'd like to know, what do you propose to do about cleaning the snow?
Actually, that's a good question. It was brought up at a recent meeting with council and the director of public works. And his answer was, we will manage to remove the snow. So for now, we don't know what option citizens would prefer. The one that is without the débarcadère, there's a section in the back of which currently is designed for a parking lot, but like Vincent mentioned, probably in phase one would not be built as a parking lot, just as space for us even eventually to build. That section would be used for snow. But if we go for the other scenario, the director of public work made sure that the snow would be cleaned out. So would it be picked up? I too early to say, but my gut feeling is it would be pushed at some point and then removed out to be pulled out of the site.
If I can comment on that.
Sure.
It'd be a real shame if you carried it away, apart from the cost and the fact that you have a snow-filled parking lot. Part of what really got carried away. The kids have a marvelous time playing on it, and to me, it's one of the joys of residential.
So you would be in favor.
For the snow around.
Okay, so you'd be in favor of for us to try to find a way to keep the snow there during winter time. Thank you. It's noted. So I will move on with the next question from Dwayne. I don't know who Dwayne is, but I will unmute Dwayne. Is it working for Dwayne? Hold on, I will work it out like that. Dwayne, do you want to talk, or is it me having a problem? I'm muting you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so it's not Dwayne, it's Greg Weil.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Weil.
No problem, no problem. D is for my wife, Dale Weil. So I have quite a few concerns, but I realize it's just one question right now, and I'll stick to the water. The storm sewers, I realize there's already an existing storm sewer, but you're going to be putting in a new one. That is our water park, that area. It's a little bay of the Ottawa River there, and it can be quite stagnant. And we all know that coming out of storm sewers isn't just clean rainwater. There's a lot of stuff that comes down in that, and you get eutrophication in that little bay. And I'm just wondering, is there any thought through your civil engineering to trap or recycle some of that storm sewer water that's going to be dumped into the lake or into the river?
That's a very good question. I know
what is the Ministry of the Environment saying about that? Because they're very, very strict. I live on the water, and I know how strict they are, believe me.
That's a fact, and it's a good question. And I know that I was actually discussing this subject with Mr. Vincent Carrier to find out what type of system we were going to use. At some point, is it possible to contain it within the site? But I'll let him say where we stand as far as what system we're proposing. Vincent?
Oui, vous m'entendez?
Oui.
Right. It's okay if I respond in French?
Oui, oui, c'est bon.
Oui. Donc, c'est sûr que actuellement, comme j'ai dit tout à l'heure, on ne connaît pas encore le type d'installation septique qui va être mise en place. L'installation septique avec un champ d'épuration, c'est sûr que ça change un peu la configuration des choix d'implantation, soit le paysage ou soit le stationnement, parce que le champ d'épuration doit être installé à un endroit. Okay? Puis, un CPE de 80 enfants, ça prend quand même une superficie assez grande. Je ne connais pas les dimensions, mais donc, ça, c'est d'une part. L'autre part, le rejet des eaux, c'est sûr que le rejet des eaux dans les émissaires pluviaux, comme j'ai dit, étant donné que c'est un bâtiment institutionnel ou un bâtiment municipal, c'est le ministère de l'Environnement qui va déterminer, qui va émettre, si on veut, leur règlement, leur balise, à savoir pour que ça devienne conforme, si on veut, selon leur réglementation à eux. Puis, c'est le mandataire de Mme Apollon, la firme Mozart, c'est ça, qui est mandaté par la Ville pour faire les démarches auprès du ministère. Donc, ça, c'est une chose. Maintenant, pour récupérer les eaux, vous parlez de l'installation septique, mais en général, c'est un bassin versant quand même d'une grande superficie qui se draine vers cet émissaire-là pluvial. C'est sûr qu'il y a plusieurs eaux qui est captée un peu partout. Par exemple, il y a l'installation septique du Whiteside Taylor présentement qui se déverse dans cette conduite-là. On ne l'a pas mentionné tantôt, mais c'est un petit peu plus au sud. Donc, c'est des eaux traitées qui s'en vont directement également dans le même émissaire. Donc, c'est sûr qu'il faut rester au nord de cet émissaire-là. Peu importe. Maintenant, bon, le choix d'installation septique, ça va être le prochain sujet de discussion, étant donné que dès que le choix d'implantation est fait, c'est sûr que par après, la conception peut avancer. Puis, une des premières choses qui va être, disons, élaborée, c'est l'installation septique. J'espère que je réponds à votre question ou en partie.
Well, il n'y avait pas beaucoup sur le storm sewers.
Non. C'est vrai, on n'est pas rendu.
Monsieur Barcelo a peut-être, je vois que Marcelo peut-être a quelque chose à rajouter. Allez-y, Monsieur Barcelo.
Yeah, well, what I would answer to that is that the Ministry of Environment is going to look into that project when we're further advanced in the design. And of course, we will have to comply with what the requirements are. That being said, it's difficult for now to evaluate because it is we're mixing water of an existing sewer that's draining a big area that we don't have much control on, and the parking lot, which this we can control and improve the quality of water we can send in the sewer. But definitely it will have to comply with the Ministry of Environment.
Alors peut-être que la question, maybe the question will be answered later in the process, where once more advanced in the design, we could share with you what's proposed and what solution is under study, Mr. Ray.
Okay.
Okay, I will move on with the next question. For those who have already asked a question, please be free once I have done one turn to come back if you want. No problem with that. So the next person would be, and this is in alphabetic order, so David McCausland.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Good evening. So I think I had the same question as Dwyer. But let me just supplement that. It's not because I don't think the question was answered, and what you're doing is augmenting the flow through that storm sewer. As I understand it, you're augmenting it significantly, and that goes into the lake in close proximity to our house. And so the question I have, is what will be the environmental consequences of that, as Greg has asked. But beyond that, since you are going to be, according to the existing plan, digging a new trench and replacing that sewer, why can't you move it and examine the possibility of placing it in a different place where the water flow into the lake, into the river would be better? Because it's not at the optimal place right now. It's at the very base of the bay.
Yeah, I could partially answer this question, as we're currently looking to change the system at the yacht club. and we were trying to, once we got into the replacement of the system of the yacht club, we tried to find different options to try to divert water or try to find a way to get water to enter the lake at different points. And it's hard to do because it's either at the close to the yacht club or in that area, or then you move on to the next zone, which is currently where the exit is. So, and when we were looking to divert to the yacht club, that's major work to bring water all the way there. And I see Vincent saying no, but we tried to look at that, but I see that you have a concern. I think it should be noted, and we should come up with answers as we move forward. But I understand that you're concerned on the effect that we will have adding water to that exit that you feel is currently a problem. Is that correct? Okay, so point noted. We'll ask questions and make sure that we're able to come up with answers for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So let's move on with the next person. Let me go down the group, and then we have. Oops, I've got one people joining. Now it's for Mr. Eric Lilly to speak. So I'll unmute you, Mr. Lilly. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. The most serious question that I would have now would be the finances. For 1 year to the date, we had a Mickey Mouse budget at 175. Now we learn it's actually 2.6. Your mathematics is off by 235,000, Mr. Bouchard, once again. Your deficit is over 500,000, not the whatever you put. So your math is off on that. So we have another 1.6 in sewers. You can pass us off on infrastructure you want. We're up to 4.2. And I'll say right now on record in front of everybody that you're going to have 3 million on the daycare and 2 million on sewers, $5 million. This is a sham, and you can debate the numbers needed for daycare, now the price, the location. We have a binary choice for 43 residents to decide on tonight. In the middle of summer, great process. Check out the math. In front of 200 people last year, when I raised objections, you misrepresented the expenses for operating it. You still haven't sent me an email after 6 weeks to revise what the operating expenses will be. And I'm infuriated by the whole process. And
is
that's
it your question, Mr. Lilly?
My question is, review your mathematics and explain why, again, you're off by over 200,000. And why for a year you left it until now to show the town how much it's going to cost. At the minimum, it's going to go up a lot more. That's my question. No.
Thank you.
My wife has a question later for you.
We'll come, no problem. The answer partly to that, Mr. Lilly, is once the budget was established, the location and the cost of the choice of location were unknown. Now, if we're to build it on the preferred location, which was not this one was chosen by the majority of residents who were surveyed, we would not have to expand a parking lot. We would not have to deal with sewage, and we therefore would be able to meet the budget of 1.75 million, roughly, plus or minus, that we had presented. So part of the reason is, in fact, the location where we are currently working. So I'll come back with questions from citizens if you have other. Don't worry, Mr. Lilly, if you have another question, we'll come back to you. No problem. So I had the counselor Heidi Egvet before I finished, but I think she wanted to, hold on, go ahead.
Mr. Bouchard, before I go ahead, would it be possible for Ms. Perdue to raise her question? I know they're on the same Zoom, but I think she has her own separate question. I'd be happy if you come back to me afterwards.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Bouchard. I've watched someone draw all over my house, and unfortunately, I don't understand what all the red marks meant. I'm hoping somebody can reach out to me and re-explain some of that later, but I would like to read a statement I wrote because this has had a big effect on me, and I find that people are very unaware of this whole situation. So we've been asked to participate in a divisive poll which pitted neighbor against neighbor to choose a location for a new CPE. We're now being asked to choose between design A or B, but we have never been given the opportunity to discuss whether or not a new daycare is needed in Baie-D'Urfé. A recent law has significant and direct implications for this project, and I think everyone needs to be aware of it. I am at 690 Dowker. I'm Diane Perdue Lilly. I have a degree in early childhood and educational administration degree and more than 30 years of experience. And I find that people really don't understand what's available here in Baie-D'Urfé. So I'm going to very briefly explain what is available and share the new law with you if you're not aware of it. Currently, Whiteside Taylor Daycare has a permit for 65 children aged 18 months to 5 years. Whiteside Taylor has a preschool, which actually needs a lot more parking than just the daycare. And it has 25 to 30 children aged 2 to 5, the majority of whom are Baie-D'Urfé residents. On the web, there's a private daycare called Les Petites Arbres on Lakeview with 6 spaces. Alexander von Humboldt has 36 students aged 2, 3, and 4, preschool and after school available. These are considered private daycares. They charge higher fees than subsidized programs. However, through federal and provincial tax credits, the amounts paid by parents is reduced, so they are fairly competitive to the CPE system. Combining these programs, we have 132 spaces for children. The last Baie-D'Urfé census indicates we have 125 children under the age of 5. I also learned from my research that there are 21 government certified daycares within 5-kilometer radius of Whiteside Taylor. In spite of heavy opposition from daycare operators and employees, last autumn, the National Assembly passed Bill 5 of the Education Act. It makes it mandatory that every school board in the province provides transportation and education for every 4-year-old in the province. The guidelines and objectives are similar to those at the current CPE. Thus, shortly, we will have programs at our local schools, Joseph Enrico and Dorset. But realize these programs will be at Christmas Park, St. Remy, St. Edmunds, and most private schools. We can anticipate a minimum of 20 children at each of our schools. That means Baie-D'Urfé will have approximately 170 spaces for children under the age of 6 within institutions that already exist. So why do we need the new 80-child CPE? Because it offers 10 spaces to infants under 18 months and younger. Maternity and paternity benefits end at 12 months. There's a 6 months gap when parents need to return to work and at the age at which current spaces are available. But I ask you, do we really need to borrow millions of dollars to build a hideous black daycare on land deemed as a heritage site of exceptional value? Or can we reimagine and invest in our current excellent facility so that when our 4-year-olds depart to join their siblings at the local elementary school, there'll be plenty of space to accommodate 10 infants? I'd like to know where Baie-D'Urfé plans to get all the 2- and 3-year-olds to fill 135 spaces at 2 Baie-D'Urfé Whiteside Taylor daycares. Thank you for listening, and I hope somebody learned something.
Thank you very much. let's move back to, I guess, Heidi Egved, you had something you wanted to say. Or, oh, I'm sorry, I have to unmute you too. Sorry.
Thank you. My question is for Maggie Apollon, and for the benefit of the people in attendance of the audience more than myself, although I haven't asked this question on the times that we've met. Is there anything, considering that the location of the daycare does back onto, depending on which location you're talking about, backs onto a residential neighborhood, what are there any extra precautions that are in place or could be put in place, i.e. acoustic fences, anything that would help? What is in place to help minimize the impact on the neighbors?
Oui, est-ce que je peux vous répondre?
Oui, bien sûr. C'est comme
si j'ai bien compris la question, vous voulez savoir s'il y a des équipements ou des solutions qui sont apportées pour réduire l'impact sur les voisins résidentiels?
Oui.
Oui, malheureusement, c'est tous les projets que je fais, malheureusement, c'est toujours le problème. Il faut effectivement partager l'espace avec les enfants et les résidents. La chose qu'on fait, il y a des bandes de végétation. Il y a ce qu'on appelle une zone tampon qui peut réduire la transmission du bruit. Mais le grand avantage d'un CPE, c'est que c'est la fin de semaine, c'est libre, on n'a pas de voisins. C'est mieux qu'une maison parce que le week-end, ils ne sont pas là.
Oui.
Le soir non plus. Puis, les moments où les enfants sont à l'extérieur, c'est très limité quand même en termes de tout le monde en même temps. Ils passent la moitié de la journée à dormir. C'est la sieste. Je peux pas, il n'y a pas de miracle. Je veux dire, les enfants ont besoin de place pour grandir et pour jouer. Et plutôt que de réduire leur superficie de jeu, ben, on préfère la garder la plus grande possible, mais on peut aussi ajouter une bande d'arbustes ou une petite butte qui limite le bruit.
Merci, Madame Apollon.
Ça fait plaisir.
Madame Meryl Hammond.
Am I on?
Yes, you are.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So I live on Sunny Acres and want to come back to the point, Eric raised a point about finances, how the costs are escalating. And I believe you said, Mr. Bouchard, that the poll was taken, was it sometime last year or whenever, and the citizens chose this particular site, and now the costs are escalating because we didn't know this or that. If that's the case, wouldn't now be the time to do a poll, like transparently, and say to citizens, okay, if you're going to build it here, we've got drainage problems and parking lots and blah, blah, blah. But if you want to build it there, it'll cost X. Because I know when we voted last time, we had no idea really what we were up against. Now we're further down the road, we have that idea. Yeah. So that would be the first thing. And then there was a letter in the latest News and Views. I don't know if you saw it, but some guy who's, I think Mr. Murray, I don't know him personally, he said, has anybody thought about looking at the site at Surrey where public works are and the fire station, etc.? And what about demolishing all the ugly things there and building a beautiful thing? It's close to the highway, so parents can drop off and leave for work very quickly. So you'll have your daycare, you'll have your your workers from admin at town hall who are overflowing, you'll have, and then you won't have to expand town hall. It was a very interesting, so I commend you to read his letter in the July edition. That's it.
Thank you. As a piece of answer, I will say that it was always it was always my point of view, and I always expressed it to council that once we know what we were up against, there could be a time where we would need to make a decision based on what we face. For instance, and I think I mentioned that if we were to face major levels of contamination in the soil, we would then have to say, do we move on, or do we are we looking at another site? Are we what is the current situation? So yes, it's a possibility. I can't speak for council. They're listening tonight, but I've already expressed the fact that the situation we are facing, although they're increasing the cost of the whole project, I have to say that eventually there are costs that will have to be faced by the city anyhow, because we might push the redo of the parking lot for a couple of years, but it will have to be redone. It's going to be bigger because the laws that it's not complying to the size of parking lots size, and the sewage will have to be done. So we might say, let's move to another location to contain it within 2 million, but we will have those expenses down the road. So, you know, but definitely noted, and I think council will discuss it further down. Thank you. Now, I don't think I have anybody that did not ask a question. So let's move on with the second round, starting with Mr. Colmel. Go ahead.
I'm hearing a lot of interesting questions. I think I forget my own. It's interesting. I mean, I have a kid that's 12 months old right now, and I'm really hoping to have a space in the CPE. They're overflowing, and that's one of the challenges currently in the province. But I'm hearing interesting things from the Lilies, Haman, and others, and the concerns there that maybe we should be going back to the drawing board and looking at the existing resources and spaces in Baie-D'Urfé and the reasoning. I think these are valid, very valid questions. It's not just about money, it's about, you know, just efficiency and really what the residents need and want. So as much as I would want to rush and have my child there, I think from, you know, a non-personal standpoint, I think we should look back at the drawing board and look at this. If we do build anything, I have a series of questions why we're not annexing something to a building or just building something smaller, utilizing current spaces. In the architectural design, why we're not looking at passive solar things. There was mention of green roofs. There are a lot of concerns environmentally. We're in 2020 now. We're no longer building a block and adapting the environment around what we want to put. So we have to be a little more creative, especially with the amount of money that we're putting out there. I think we can challenge this architect and these engineers to do a little more. And a good way to put out there, and this is not the end all be all, but there's the LEED certification, which federal government and governments are putting as a standard for all their buildings for years now. And that's just one standard that we can set the bar higher and address a lot of these concerns environmentally. Whether it's, you know, just the physical beauty, whether it's the health inside our buildings, whether it's actually, you know, maximizing even the drainage. If we have a little more green space, we don't have to spend so much on the drainage because we're absorbing. We have sponges in the parking lot instead of just more concrete accumulating that. There's a lot of things out there that are being done. And I would love to challenge the engineers and the architects on this to do a little more with what we have. So I'm just putting that out that council. Just look at the at least LEED certification or other things along the way, as well as consult citizens on maybe looking at existing resources. So no question, just a point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Colmel. I have to say on a personal base that cities that I work with build LEED, even gold LEED certificate buildings. and they tend, I'm not saying it could be the case, but they tend to cost more. And the idea is a lot of the cost involves the management of all the documents that they need to, that a contractor needs to produce in order to get the certification. But I really like the idea of pushing further, maybe the reflection on what are the best tools available to put on the building. For instance, they didn't talk much about it, but there's a gas line passing on Lakeshore. So we will take advantage of the gas line to put the high efficiency furnace in the building in order to both heat the building and also use it to heat the floor. So not saying it's a perfect green environmental solution, but there was a concern at some point, and we wanted to do as much as we can. We talked about geothermia. Geothermia, you need space to be able to drill the holes in order to get that water and use that temperature. We don't, in both configuration, although the land seems quite big, there's not much space left once you fit in the septic system and all that. So that also was a concern based on site. Doesn't mean that it can't be done, but yeah, they're there to be challenged. We're paying them, and good idea. Going back to Mr. Wheel, sorry, don't want to rebirth you.
It's Weil.
Wow,
Yeah.
My fault again, sorry.
No problem, no problem. I get it all the time. Following up on the many concerns I'm hearing about the cost and the planning, and I had been led to believe that one of the reasons this was being pushed so quickly was because of the government grant, and that there was a time limit. I may be wrong on that, but that was some of the discussions that I had heard early on. If I look at the government grant, it's like 10% of the cost. I mean, it's insignificant, really. I think we definitely need to take the time, as other people have expressed, and study this from many perspectives. So I just wanted to make that point. And maybe you can clear up the idea of my point about the government grant.
Yeah, I will do so, Mr. I'm not going to get it.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Weil.
Just call me Greg.
Okay, Greg. The point was, it's not so much the grant that we were getting, it's the subsidized places.
Okay.
So we're talking between a private daycare or a subsidized
right.
daycare. So it was really because there was 80 places subsidized and that the Whiteside Taylor had, that was the big deal. So it was not so much the $300,000 it was taking into account, but it was really for the subsidized daycare place.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Let's go back to Mr. Guido Socher. I will unmute you. It's not going to be very long. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have just a short question. So when all of this started, I talked to Maria, and she asked her, why don't we build, for example, a second level on the existing CPE or around it? There is some space if you push the boundary towards the curling club or something. And since we have an architect here in the meeting, would that be a possibility to build a second level on top the existing one?
Can you translate?
Est-ce que c'est possible de construire un deuxième étage, selon vous, sur le bâtiment existant du Whiteside Taylor?
For having an answer of your question, I would have to make a big survey for the existing structure, first of all, and the foundation, and the new requirements or the new way to use daycare centers are not appropriate for the form of the building. So I would never suggest to do this option or to do the analysis for that, because you would pay a lot to be just able to start the project. So it would cost more than a new building. And the result would not be more better. And one important thing is also that because the daycare is on one floor, it's more easy for each kids and each people to access the building. And the people inside the daycare, they really appreciate the fact that they have to only open the door from their room to go outside. Almost each playroom have its own door to have easy access to the exterior. So if we have a second floor, it would be not possible. But I have a lot of other reasons that I would never suggest that.
Thank you for the question. Moving on, I've got two last people who wants to ask a question. So we'll take those two, and then we'll poll out again, and that's going to be the end of this session. So I'll start with David McCausland. Go ahead.
You can hear me?
Yes.
So it's not a question, it's just a point I want to make with respect to the cost.
We're barely hearing you, Mr. McCausland. I don't know if you could get closer to your mic or.
Can you hear me?
Yes, better.
With respect to the cost and your new estimate, your re-estimate.
Yeah.
I just want to say, as it so happens, I work very closely with two large, important, very influential real estate developers and builders in this province. And one of the biggest challenges, if not the biggest challenge that they face, and they are letting contracts for major developments all of the time. Their biggest challenge is escalating construction costs that are almost impossible to control or estimate and are going up steadily. This is an absolute reality in this province. There's a shortage of manpower. There's a shortage of subcontractors. There's an enormous problem with the availability of skilled sub-trades who dictate their costs. And all that to say, I can guarantee you that you are going to be re-estimating again to the upside on this. It's a certainty. And you'll probably be re-estimating to the upside twice again. If you consult with anybody who's in the building business to very experienced in this province, they will tell you that that is the reality they're facing, and you should not be living in denial. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCausland. And then I'll go back to who, and then we have the final words as questions for Mr. Errolfilly.
Oh, it's me again. It's Diane. And
go ahead.
I had a question about the black facade. Does it have to be black if you are going to build something? Is there a possibility of making it more child friendly. I just don't find black very appealing for young children at all.
Madame
Nor
Apollon?
why it fits.
Yeah. Okay, this is a large, there's a lot of people who give this kind of comments. And when they think children, they think we should have a Mickey Mouse, something really ludique. But the kids need something more stable, more plus stable, plus rassurant. It's a home. It's not it's an institutional. It's like a school. It's a home. And I don't try to make something too much funny. Fun. And we just try to make a building that is more integrated with avec l'environnement. Maintenant, la couleur du bois que vous voyez, c'est sûr, ce sont des représentations graphiques. C'est pas le vrai matériau, là, c'est pas comme ça. C'est un bois qui veut vraiment faire ressortir les couleurs de la nature. C'est du bois. So it's not something paint. It's the real color of wood.
Well, we live in a wood house and ours is cedar. It's brown.
Yeah, and we have also clear part to demonstrate the entrance and toutes les soffites sont aussi avec un bois plus pâle. But when we want to when we have a large building and we want it more integrated with avec des arbres, ok. Usuellement, c'est ce qu'on fait. C'est plus un look chalet que j'ai essayé de reproduire pour vous qu'un look bâtiment urbain avec beaucoup de couleurs qui finalement n'ont pas de rappel avec ce qu'on a dans l'environnement. Le Whiteside Taylor est un édifice qui s'intègre aussi très bien. Les couleurs ne sont pas... it's not yellow or red. And it's a nice building. And we have to respect this building. So I don't want to make competition with the other building. I just want to use something that is an architecture which is very 2020. C'est très ouvert, il y a beaucoup de vert, c'est très lumineux.
Yes, I see that.
Yeah.
I think as a point on this subject, we have to remember people that this design, although this is the perspective that was shown, it will still have to go through many steps. One of which is go through TPAC, because there's this PAPE on Lakeshore, and mandate of the members of the TPAC is obviously to make sure that it's well integrated with the surroundings. So I think the point is we want a building to be as much as integrated as possible, and what you're telling is that the black or the color that is currently used might be a bit too strong.
Yes.
Can I make a point that on March the 3rd, I sent plans, pictures and written plans for a 6,000-foot daycare that were never been acknowledged. If I could share the screen, I could show you a couple of those things for everybody to show. The town has been knowing about, but not represented on the initiative of a private citizen, very affected by it. Interestingly, it'll cost less, it's pushed back, and it would not obstruct the Cummins house view, which is the most major impact that there is by this. If I could show you a couple of pictures, people might appreciate that.
Unfortunately, I don't think the participants are able to share their screen.
Well, it says host disabled. So if you disable me, I can click them up very quickly. They're on
Okay,
my.
I will allow you to do that, and then we'll wrap it up as we have exceeded the time.
It.
Okay,
Just a
so
perspective.
yeah, go ahead. Hold on just a sec.
Okay.
Yes. So go ahead. You can share your screen now.
Okay. Whoop. There's one. Whoops. That's what we have. This
you
is
have
one.
You haven't shared, Mr. Lilly.
Sorry, I've lost the. Okay, one sec. Share screen. Okay. Well, here's one. Okay, so that's the picture. It's pushed back, and the Cummins will still have a view, very unobstructed. And I had an overhead view somewhere, right here. So here's the Cummins house. They see directly through. The other ones sitting right here, they lose their view completely. So the path comes up. It's about 6,000 square feet. The play area is right behind here. And you can put parking lot in here or not, I guess. But anyhow, that's another option that I presented March the 3rd, four months ago. Not unacknowledged, but thank you for letting me show that to people now.
Thank you. So if you could just stop your sharing,
Okay.
so we'll go back to.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I will leave the final words to Mr. Kevin Doherty as a closing note. I thank you all very much for that that meeting that went well. Oh, I forgot. Let's run a last poll just to see how it goes comparing to the first one. So I will relaunch the post, and so we could just answer once again. And then Mr. Doherty will give a little closing note. Okay, so I will end the poll. We're getting pretty much the same result, but obviously it's not all that are answering. So, but it gives a sense of So 69-31. So with that, I'll let Mr. Doherty close the meeting. Go ahead, Mr. Doherty. Yeah, you have to unmute yourself as well.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you all for participating. It was a interesting, challenging evening. Certainly a lot of food for thought, a lot of great ideas, a lot of great comments. Certainly it's going to give us a lot to really ponder in the days ahead. Alors, merci à tout le monde pour votre participation. C'était très, très intéressant, tous les commentaires. Et puis, nous allons certainement songer sur tous ces points-là qui ont été emmenés. So once again, thank you all, and thank you for participating. And quite frankly, this is it's a nice medium, but it's not like seeing each other face to face and being able to share a glass of water.
Merci, Monsieur
Thanks
Doherty.
again. Everybody have a great night, and be safe and be well.
Merci, Monsieur Doherty. Alors, merci, Madame Apollon. Merci, Monsieur Barcelo. Merci, Vincent Carrier. And all of those who did ask questions. Questions are always welcome. And I hope you enjoy this meeting. So Vous pouvez keep posted, and we'll update the information on the website as we go along and as council reflects on what was discussed tonight. So thank you very much, everybody. I will end the recording as of right now.